Things are really rough for the Raiders right now. There's no way around it. After a tough 34-19 loss to the Dolphins, Maxx Crosby just dropped some brutally honest comments. And let me tell you, Crosby isn't the kind of guy to sugarcoat things, and what he said might just give us a glimpse of the major shakeups coming for this team. Now, I know it's been a rough season so far, the losses are piling up, and yeah, playoffs are off the table. But Crosby's words, they're not just frustration, they're a reality check. This team isn't where it should be, and the cracks are showing. From the offense struggling to finish drives to the defense missing key stops, it feels like every game leaves us with more questions than answers. So, what's next? Are we talking about tanking for that top draft pick? Is Scott Turner's offense the spark we need for a rebuild? And what about Tom Brady's role in all of this? Stick with me because we're diving into what Crosby really meant, what went wrong against Miami, and why the future of this team might not be as bleak as it seems. What's up, everybody? If you're just finding us, hit that subscribe button. We're your home for everything AFC West, right here on this channel. First, break down what happened on the field. The Raiders took on the Miami Dolphins, and while the final score reads 34-19, let's be real. It felt closer than that, at least for a good chunk of the game. Early on, there were moments when it looked like this offense had finally turned a corner. I mean, the first couple of drives, the Raiders moved the ball well, they were marching down the field with confidence, but then they just couldn't finish. Field goals instead of touchdowns, it's the same old story. And let's give some credit where it's due. Brock Bowers was an absolute beast. 13 catches, 126 yards, and a touchdown. That kid's got a bright future, no doubt about it. The offense actually looked organized for once. Scott Turner, the new offensive coordinator, brought in some fresh ideas, more motion, better spacing. You could see the improvement. But then again, when your run game is practically non-existent, there's only so much you can do. Zamir White struggled, Alexander Mattison got hurt, and we just couldn't keep the Dolphins' defense honest. But the defense had its hands full. Tua Tagovailoa was just carving us up, man. 3 touchdown passes, including that massive 57-yard bomb to Jonnu Smith. Blown coverage like that, it's a killer. And the run defense? Let's just say Devon Achane didn't exactly have a tough time finding space. The injuries certainly didn't help. Guys like Nate Hobbs and Malcolm Kuntz being out left us thin. But even then, you've got to make some stops. The defense just couldn't get off the field when it mattered most. So yeah, the game had its moments, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. The Dolphins exposed a lot of the same issues we've been seeing all season. An inconsistent offense, a defense that bends way too much, and a team that struggles to finish strong. This struck hard to Maxx Crosby. He didn't hold back. In the locker room, he basically called it like it is. It's just about details, just playing for pride at this point. Pride. That's a tough word to hear from your star player because, let's face it, that's what teams talk about when they know the season's over. But here's the thing about Crosby. He's not just venting frustration. He's a competitor, and this loss clearly hit him. It's not just about losing a game. It's about what losing means for this team right now. When you're at the point where the playoffs are out of reach and you're staring down a potential rebuild, guys like Crosby want answers. They want to know that the organization is doing everything it can to turn things around. Still, there's something to be said about progress. This offense moved the ball better than we've seen in weeks, even if they couldn't finish drives. And yeah, 19 points isn't going to win you many games, but you've got to start somewhere. Turner's making adjustments, and it's a step in the right direction. The question is, can he keep building on this? Or is this just a flash in the pan? If there's one takeaway from this game, it's that the Raiders need to figure out how to get off the field in critical moments. That's it. Stop the bleeding, make a stand, and give your offense a chance. Because if they can't do that, it doesn't matter how many points the offense puts up, it won't be enough. Now, let's zoom out for a minute and talk about the bigger picture. Because let's be real, this season isn't about playoffs anymore. It's about what comes next. And that starts with one word: rebuild. Look, the Raiders are staring at a top 5 draft pick if this trend continues. And as painful as it is to keep losing, that might actually be the best thing for this team in the long run. Why? Because they need a franchise quarterback. Gardner Minshew? He's a solid placeholder, but he's not the guy you build around. And if the Raiders want to turn this ship around, they need someone under center who can change games. But here's where it gets tricky. Losing on purpose? Yeah. Tanking, as people like to call it, never sits well with players. You think Maxx Crosby wants to hear, hey, let's just lose out for a better draft pick. No shot. This guy plays with pride every snap, and he's not alone. Guys like Brock Bowers, who's just getting started in his NFL career, aren't going to be happy playing on a team that's mailing it in. And then there's the front office. They've got to make some big calls this offseason. Do they stick with Scott Turner as offensive coordinator? Can Antonio Pierce keep the locker room together and earn the head coaching job full-time? And most importantly, what's the plan for the draft? Because if they mess this up, if they miss on another quarterback or fail to fix the glaring holes on defense, it's going to set this franchise back even further. The good news? The blueprint is out there. Look at teams like the Lions. They started from the bottom, made smart picks, brought in the right coaches, and now they're legit contenders. The Raiders can do that too, but it starts with the right decisions this offseason. The next few months, they're going to define this team's future. No pressure, right? And Tom Brady, now a Raiders minority owner, is being involved in the game as well. The question is, what kind of impact is he really going to have? Reports are already saying he's going to play a big role in shaping this team's future, especially when it comes to finding their next quarterback. I mean, who better to weigh in on a franchise QB than a guy with 7 rings? Now, does that mean he's calling all the shots? Probably not. Mark Davis is still the owner, and Antonio Pierce, if he sticks around, is going to have his own vision for the team. But having Brady in the mix? That would be a game changer. He's been in winning organizations, he knows what works, and he's not going to sit quietly while this team flounders. Brady always demanded excellence everywhere he went. If the Raiders are serious about turning things around, they need that kind of mindset in the building, and yeah, that's easier said than done, especially when you're coming off a season like this one. But if anyone can raise the bar, it's Brady. The big question is, how involved will he really be? Will he just be an advisor, dropping in for key decisions, or is he going to take a more hands-on approach, helping guide the team through this rebuild? Either way, fans are going to be watching closely. Because let's face it, having Tom Brady in your corner isn't something every team can say. The next few weeks aren't going to get any easier, that's for sure. The schedule ahead is rough, with games against the Broncos, Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Falcons. And honestly, there's a legit chance this team could go winless the rest of the way. But hey, maybe that's not the worst thing, right? Let's start with the Broncos. This is a team that's been all over the place this season, but they've shown flashes of getting it together. If the Raiders can somehow pull off a win there, it's a confidence boost, but that's a big if. Then there's the Chiefs. Do we even need to talk about how tough that matchup's going to be? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that whole squad, they're not going to let up just because the Raiders are struggling. But here's what I think matters most in these final games. It's not about wins and losses anymore. It's about showing progress. Can the offense keep building under Scott Turner? Can Brock Bowers continue to shine? Can the defense tighten up, even if it's just in small areas? These are the things that are going to matter heading into next season. And let's not forget about the young guys. This is the perfect time to give them more representations. Get Trey Tucker more involved in the passing game, see what you've got in the depth players on defense. Even if the results don't show up on the scoreboard, you're building experience and figuring out who's going to be part of this team's future. So, what's next? The rest of this season is about 2 things: progress and preparation. Can this team show improvement on the field even if the wins don't come? And can the front office start laying the foundation for a brighter future? But for now, it's about taking it one game at a time. The Broncos are up next, and who knows? Maybe the Raiders surprise us, or maybe they don't. Either way, this story isn't over. Big changes are coming, and you better believe we'll be here to break it all down.